So I'm with a gentleman who needs no introduction. His name is Yemi Edun, and he's with Daniel Ford. He's the CEO of Daniel Ford International. Yemi, you're welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure, Dolapa. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for coming on. And it's such a pleasure and such an honor to be able to interview you today because, you know, you're a veteran in the industry, right? It's like you've been here way before a lot of us came into property investing or property as a whole. And so I really wanted to, you know, gain from you and just get a bit of your journey and find out how did you get into property. And you've been, you know, you've set up Daniel Ford for all these years. How have you weathered all the different storms we've had? Because of course, as we know, we're either in a recession or even though it doesn't feel like we are, you know, going into a recession. So it's almost, it's interesting that you will be on the show at this time just to kind of give us some insight into how you got through the last recession in 2008. Being that you had already been very much entrenched in the industry at that point. So before we go into all of that, just if you could give us a bit of context around how you got into property, your history before then, and your story.
Thank you so much. That's a packed question. I don't know where to start from, but like you know, the name is Yemi Edun. I was born in Nigeria, grew up in Lagos. You know, loved Lagos. I believe Lagos prepared me for my latter day life. Left university, and my elder brother invited me over. You know, prior to that, you know, I come to England, but I had no desire to stay because I felt Lagos was it. You know, things started getting tougher in the Abacha days, and even back in Nigeria, I was doing stuff. I was importing snooker accessories. I was the biggest supplier of snooker balls. You know, we revolutionized the sports in Nigeria. You know, in the early 90s. You know, I was employing people whilst I was in university. So I now found myself in a pickle, so to speak, because I knew there was trouble looming. And when my brother invited me, he was more of a technical person. So when I got to England, he was trying to get me into his own world, which was IT. But I've never been a technical person, and that wasn't working for me. And I was in limbo, really. And then my cousin who owned the flat in Baker Street, but resides in Nigeria, more, you know, spoke to me about assisting him in renting out his property when he was away. And he was doing it mainly just to give me
something to do,
a chance to make a bob, because he had a good friend that had a property company, you know. So I asked, why can't I work with that gentleman? And he said, he spoke to him. The gentleman was initially reluctant. I don't think he was reluctant because of anything beyond taking an additional staff, you know. But I had the opportunity. I was more like an apprentice. You know, this was the 90s. We were still using Loot magazine to scout and advertise property before the search engine, you know, came. And
so talk us through that. So you mean like you would go through Loot magazine, sort of look through all the different ads and just try and source your clients from there?
It was a very interesting training ground, because this immigrant who's new in London. Most Blacks had not started owning property properly, you know. Even as we speak now, 17% of Blacks own.
Own their own homes.
The lowest, you know, amongst all the ethnic minorities, you know. So you can imagine what it was back then. Now, we had to, Loot was a free magazine. was a free advert magazine. It's like your modern day Google. So landlords would advertise their properties. So what we had to do was buy notes, call the landlord like you are interested in their property.
Okay.
And in the next 30 to 60 seconds, convince them that actually I'm an agent. I have a lot of inquiries. Would you give me an opportunity to let your property? 9 out of 10 will tell you,
no way.
Get off the phone. Remember, it was more of landline then as well, you know. But we were able to get by, you know. From that endeavor, we were still able to buy our own properties. We were still able to go on holidays. We are even able to improve ourselves in the industry. So that was the beginning. It was tough, but I was coming from a tougher space. Let's put it that way. So for me, it wasn't daunting, you know. As a matter of fact, I had to do that in the day and do another job at night, you know, because I wasn't earning enough from property to keep me. Yes.
And property isn't what it is now. Like, you know, now we understand the value. At that time, it wasn't anything that you knew was, you know, a good business, but it wasn't anything that anybody necessarily sort of fought themselves over to get into, right? Or at least that's the impression.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. It wasn't, then even for the Nigerians, they didn't really see value in buying a property via mortgage. And I had cases of people reporting a prospective buyer to the parents that you're about to lose your son. He wants to sign up to a 25 years mortgage. Because remember, then the mentality was that everybody either came to study or work for a brief period and go back. The plan was never to settle. You know, the general plan was never to settle. So looking back now, it was tough. But back then, for me, I had no choice anyway. You know, so you know, I remember a friend telling me that, is that what you earn? You need to get a job, you know, honestly.
The early days are normally tough. The early days are normally tough, it's true.
So from what you pointed out, there are various factors that has changed. Communication has changed, because then for you to get any information, you have to go to the library. You have to check the yellow pages. Online was not there. So you need someone in the industry to mentor you, right? I was fortunate that I came across good people, but I was restricted by what they knew, you know. And out of that circle, there was little information available. Right now, people have videos of how to do things. You can even speak the lingua, you know, but I had to learn it the hard way, the real grafted way. Yes, you know. So that was the beginning.
And so from there, that's how you started. And, you know, I like the fact that, you know, you said you had to learn it, you know, the hard way, in that, you know, sometimes when you're mentoring someone or you're showing someone the ropes, you are in a way giving them your spoon feeding. It's like you almost like say, okay, say it like this, because you know from experience that if you say it any other way, it's not going to work out, right? You had to learn by trial and error, going through the rejections and the rejections, but you still were able to persevere. So how did you then move from that level to say the next level from there? Because I imagine you're working, you're getting the experience. I remember the first time I met you was actually at an auction, right? And I remember seeing you and we kind of had a conversation and you said, oh yeah, you've been in this industry for a while. At this point, by the time I met you, you had already been quite, you know, established in the industry. So how did you get from, say, where you were then to the point where, you know, I ran into you about, I think this was about 10 years ago, thereabouts?
Like they say, luck, chance, God, you know. I think I came in at a point that the world was changing. So there were better tools available. I got into the industry as well when Nigeria opened up. People do forget the fact that Nigeria was heavily sanctioned by most countries in the world till 1999 because of the activities of the military regime.
Okay.
So by the time I was settling into the industry, Nigeria got into democracy. And because of the democracy, it opened up more opportunities.
Yes.
More people were sending their kids to study here. There was no direct flight to Lagos from London for about 4 or 5 years. There was no direct flight. You had to go through the KLM, Air France, and all that. Because there was a sanction, and so British Airways was not flying direct. Virgin didn't exist then. Virgin Atlantic was not flying to Nigeria at that point in time. So I think I came in at the right time.
Yeah.
When I was learning the ropes, established me. So by the time I was ready, I was groomed.
Yeah.
The appetite for London property had really grown. And again, you have to bear in mind that the buy-to-let market, it's relatively new. It's in the last 25 years, 30 years. So that opportunity came for non-resident mortgages. So I've been involved in the mortgage market now for over 2 decades. There are so many lenders that have come and gone, but as these things unravel, expertise improves, increases, and with all humility, it's not taking away my own personal,
of course,
efforts, but I think I came in at the right time that everything just set in. Again, there was the what's it called now? Highly skilled migrant program.
Okay.
Yeah, the Labour government encouraged people with skills to settle in the UK. So as they came in, they are more comfortable speaking to someone that looks like them, sounds like them. And I was there and I was single. Because I was single, I had more time. I was able to bed a lot of people in. Property could be addictive as well. So I've grown with a lot of families, over time, because they're coming into a new country. They know the monopoly area. Most of them can't afford it. So we resettled people in areas like Dagenham, Colindale. These were areas that felt far away,
at the time.
Yeah, Kent was out of the question.
Luton was not even in
was no man's land. Milton Keynes. I don't think I've even heard of Milton Keynes till maybe 2002, and so I think everything evolved at the right time, and probably I got in and grew with the opportunities that presented itself. You're not mobile phone. How many people have mobile phone? So even in Nigeria, when the mobile phone became something that was affordable, so everything. If I had been 30 years older and started this 40 years ago or 50 years ago, the opportunities would have been different.
Yes. So in a way, the timing also worked for you because a lot of people, when I came to the UK, one of the questions I used to ask people at the time, because I came in from America. America has always been very capitalistic in their perspective. They're always about the American dream. So they're always about acquisition. So when I moved here, I remember asking a few people, I don't understand, why don't you own your homes already? Like, why haven't you been buying? And they kept saying, no, that's not the perspective. Over here, it wasn't like that because property wasn't seen as a way to generate income in the way that we understand it now. It didn't have that. It wasn't like prices were appreciating. In fact, I remember my husband now at the time was telling me how there was a property that he knew somebody had that for many years he was trying to sell, could not sell because he was in negative equity for many years. And at the point he sold is only when the market started to pick up. So, some of those sentiments that, people had about property, which has completely changed now, where people, it's almost flipped to the other side, where people fully understand the value of owning your own asset and growing and capital appreciation. It wasn't a thing. It's almost like it's only in the last 10 years or 15 years that, property has really appreciated in that, really aggressive manner, right? What would you say about that sort of growth of the...
I agree with you, and I've been a product of the time. Even when I started, how much were people earning? It wasn't out of place to come across people that were on £12,000 per annum, So when you're filling mortgage forms, £12,000, £15,000. I think minimum wage in London was maybe £3, £3.50 or something crazy like that, So times have moved on. Even if you look at the area of hospitality, there are more places to visit in London. Talk of football. Okay, I think talk of football. The Premiership has since really embraced a lot of African players. There was a time that we had about 15, close to 30 players from Nigeria, Senegal, Ghana in the Premiership. So players like that tend to be our clients. The musicians, because with the Afro beats and the Nigerian genre of music becoming popular in London, and the affordability of the Nigerians in London growing as well. You now have producers like Cocoa Bar bringing in and filling up the O2 Arena. All that was not there prior to the early 2000s. So then the fact that there are direct flights to Lagos every day, direct flights to Abuja, So London, I tell people, is a city that Nigerians don't suffer a culture shock.
Yes.
It's a city that can arrive and from day one, they might even choose not to call some friends or some relatives because they have more than enough, to it's home to a lot of people.
It's true. We have really established a base here in a sense. It's almost like we've, there are parts of London, as you know, that when you walk in there, you almost feel like, where am I? Am I back home? Because of the way that we've embraced, our culture and just immersed it in this space. So we definitely are very comfortable. But the point you've made, which is true, is that we've also come up in the world as well. We've come up, and as a result, in a way, you were poised because you then became sort of the well-known property, person or the entrepreneur that was in property that people just knew, oh, this is somebody who can help you, right? And property is very much a people business. So I always say, if you're not a people person, it's going to be very difficult for you to be successful in property, because property is people. You're going to be in every aspect of property, investing or buying property or selling property. You're involved with people, isn't it? So for you, in a way, it's like it was a perfect timing for you to be able to come up, with the lots of our people in a sense. So yes.
No, I agree with you. That actually reminds me that in the early days, what most Nigerians required was shortlets accommodation. So then I used to make more money in the summer months than I would make over the whole winter and spring, But increasingly, you get more people looking to buy. And again, I think it's a function of the Nigerian economy growing as well. Oil prices increased, the telecoms opened up, technology opened up, and people want the best for their family in terms of education, which London provides, medical, lifestyle, so I think everything just keyed in at the right time.
And I like the point you made about, because you see people talk about service accommodation, short lets, rent to rent, all these things like they are modern day strategies, as if they only came about in the last few years just because they're now very popular. Actually, these I was telling someone that these strategies have been in play for years and years. Like, you know how it is with service accommodation. A lot of people that used to come, I remember people that I know that used to come here on holiday back in the 80s, back early 80s, used to get service accommodation in central London. That was the lifestyle, isn't it? So service accommodation has always been a very strong revenue generating part of the business.
Absolutely. And that's why the older Nigerians are more at home in central London because they were staying in service accommodation. Exactly. So if you're here on holiday, you'll be in Bayswater so that you are a £5 black cab ride from your shopping in Bond Street or Oxford Street,
Yeah, so for sure. And then, so for your own journey, what have you found the most challenging part of it? Now, one aspect I wanted to talk about was the build up to the 2007, 2008 crash. Now, do you see any correlation between that build up versus what we're experiencing now? Because there's almost a sentiment that it's possible that next year and the year after, we will almost be mirroring the same crash where there's a spike in the market, there's a lot of activity in the market, then the market falls off once we start to see the impact of COVID. So if we flip back to 2005, 2006, there was a spike in the market as well, where property prices seemed to be really rallying. And then by the time the crash happened in 2007, there, we started to see the unraveling of the market. So how did you get through that period, and how did you anticipate that period, because you were very much entrenched in the business at that point?
Absolutely, I was at that point. I probably had about 120, 130 properties under management. So we were not small, but it's a different ballgame. The 2007-2008 was precipitated by the banks. It was the collapse of the banking system. We learned a lot from that time, industry-wise and as a country. The government is best. I think it was well handled. The banks were bailed out. People lost their properties, but it was not as bad as the recession of the 90s. In that case, people were posting their keys back. Then you were talking of double-digit interest rates. People put it in perspective. When the crash occurred in 2008, I believe the base rate was 6%.
Yes.
6%. So when people talk, there's a generation now that's not paid anything beyond 3% in interest rate, at least sub 5. But it was regular then to pay 6%, 6.5%.
Yeah, I remember, because all our models were based on 5%, actually. So they were always based on, would this model work on a 5% interest rate, which now seems very high, but that was always the standard. Yeah,
that was the case. Yeah, I'm sure base rate was 6% when on that dark day that Northern Rock collapsed. Now, Northern Rock, Lehman Brothers. Before that, we actually had a scare. We had a scare in, I think it was 2002, 9/11.
Okay.
There was a correction. Yeah, it impacted the whole world, There was a correction, although it was a short period. And before that one, we had the dot-com bust as well.
2001, wasn't that?
So, but what we are facing now is different because, one, nobody has left the EU the way we are living.
Yes.
COVID, the world has not, in our lifetime. I have a neighbor that's 95 years old and he said, look, I've not experienced this, So in our lifetime, nobody has experienced this as well. So they are different. They are different situations. Funny enough, 2007, 2008 was actually one of our best years, you know, because if you remember, other things were really dire here in Nigeria. The economy was great.
Yeah.
And that was when we were able to encourage so many people to buy in the UK. Yes. We probably had a growth of about 100% during that period. During that period.
Yeah, because you were probably picking up properties for a song, because properties were all over the place at the time. Yeah,
absolutely. And you know, then the exchange rate was under £250, 250 naira to a pound. So it was good. It was good for us at that point in time. But it was bad for the local economy, because if the banks are in trouble, you know, it just trickles into small businesses. People lose their job and everything, you know. In this instance, the government has come great, you know, but the buy-to-let model, the way we know it, is on its way out as well. Because like everything, the more you have everybody going into it,
yes,
the value waiters, and government regulation has changed. They are looking for more established, more organized vendors. They are encouraging corporate envelope as against what the people I call DIY landlords that probably used to live in a one bed, and because they are buying a house now, decide to keep the one bed and rent.
Yeah, accidental landlords in a sense, yes.
Accidental landlords, So again, the rights of tenants are more than it was ever. You know, in those days, your landlord might decide not to return your deposit. Now deposits are protected. Tenants know their rights. You know, they just need to do a search. You know, they need a search, and the law tilts more to protect them. Health and safety is a concern. You know, so there's so much to contend with for a landlord, which gives value to the property managers, you know, but the management companies too must up their game, not to get caught out, because you are dealing with an informed audience. Before, you need to speak to someone in your circle that has probably owned one or two properties, but now you can just go online and all the information
is all on there. Exactly.
I would like to see the data actually. I'm sure Citizen Advice Bureau doesn't, they probably don't get as much calls as they used to get before, because that was your, that was the de facto place to get support before. Now there are different network, different websites tailored to solve problems like that, you know. So accidental landlords would find it difficult to really stay afloat in this industry. And that brings up opportunities for people that want to come into the industry. Management, it will be a big deal, and it's a big deal.
Yeah. And then in terms of the direction in which you see, say, access to mortgages, what do you think could potentially happen going forward? Because, you know, we remember the days when mortgages, you could almost just self-certify, just say that you had, you know, you were earning, you were working, and banks would lend you funds. But now it's, you know, we've obviously gone through a period where banking lenders have become a lot more stringent in their requirements. So how do you see that going forward? As in, I imagine it's going to get worse as we go forward.
No, I think it's good for the industry, because what we can't afford is a crash, you know. So it's good. The banks are there to do business, but they have to do, you know, the criteria has to be clear, and they have to be responsible in giving out loans. I don't see that as a problem. They are there to do business. There are more banks in the mortgage industry. You know, there was a time we only had one or two lenders who were sophisticated enough to look at your unorthodox lending. You know, One area we are quite big on that a lot of people are not aware of is church lending. We do a lot of church lending, and we've facilitated some of the big church purchases in London. So these are unusual lending requests that it takes specific banks, and there are more banks doing things. The criteria would be adjusted as the situation arises, and I think that's good for the integrity of the industry.
Yeah, especially as more people seek to get into the industry. It's almost like the banks are becoming the gatekeepers in a sense to assess, okay, who's worthy in a sense based on the way that they've managed their own finances to be able to come into this industry and start to deal. And you're right in saying that there's going to be almost a requirement for landlords to really become more professional in the way they run their portfolio and their business, just because they are beginning to penalize sort of the accidental mom and pop type of property investor. It's almost like you need to get structure in place so that you don't get caught out by all the taxation and everything that's coming through over especially as government has eased sort of so much money into the economy. You know that when it comes to the time for them to collect, that time is going to be a tough time. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, so in terms of somebody who is looking to get into, we've talked a bit about that, like somebody who wants to get into this business, this is, it's a good business. What would your advice be for someone who maybe has been sitting on the fence, not sure, but is thinking, you know what, I do like property investing. I may not necessarily have the funds to go and buy my own property, but I want to get in as a property management estate agent. What would your advice be for that kind of person?
The field is broad, the field is broad, and I still say there's a lot of opportunity, I was surprised when I was informed I'm the first person from our industry to be on the Powerlist. It just shows you, yes, the Powerlist has been going for over 12 years, so yes. It shows you that there are opportunities out there. There are opportunities in areas as small as inventory, EPC, yes. Floor plan, photography, and they've gone high tech now with drones and things like that, areas like plumbing,
Yeah, we were talking about that. Yes. Yeah,
you always need plumbers,
Yeah, always. They do very well.
We employ carpenters because when you're managing properties, you need to keep the property's integrity as well. Then let's now go to negotiators. The bedrock, the foundation of my career was people, like you rightly mentioned. The people around me, I dare say, majority of the people around me bought their first property through a discussion we had. And I'm talking of hundreds of people, friends, parents, friends, siblings, So build your network, right? Try to add value to them. You have the negotiation. It could be lettings, it could be sales. And, for me, starting off as that apprentice, that negotiator, I realized that, there's actually better value. Estate agents don't have the best of names. So I didn't really like to be as an estate agent. And once I had the opportunity of going into financial services, but the information was just not there. There was nobody to tell me what to do.
Yes.
But then bang, I got the information, did my certification, right? And I remember the gentleman that gave me that information on what to do, how to become a financial advisor. We probably had the conversation around June, I think, 2006, and met again around October. There are 3 steps to the certification. when we met in October, I said, "Oh, how are you doing?" I said, "I've passed the exam." He said, "Oh, that's good. Oh, you've passed level one. When are you doing the next level?" I said, "Oh, I've done the three. I've passed the three." Because you see, academics was never really a problem for us. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, we're raised that
because
way. Yeah,
the questions would always be set from a syllabus. So
yeah,
unless it's out of the syllabus, that's when we would have a problem. But so book has never been an issue. So he was shocked that, oh, you've
you finished.
done everything. Yeah. But you see, for us, that's the easy one.
Mhm.
Now to embed yourself, to
Yeah,
reach out, to be able to turn
yeah.
prospects into,
Into
you know, and I got into the industry,
mhm,
and in the first month, they
mhm.
knew someone new was here. In the first year, I was writing numbers that they could not believe. And I was a one man, I was a sole trader. You know, I
Yeah,
was doing figures that practices that had 10, 12 practitioners were not
yeah,
doing,
yeah, wow.
and with that, I won the Zurich, I won the prize from Zurich to watch a fight in Las Vegas. In
Wow.
2007. I wrote life policies
Hmm.
to the tune of about 30 million.
Wow.
That year. So one, our culture,
Mhm.
people don't like to talk about death. I had no problem because we're going to die. And I was
And you
blunt
were
about it.
vocal about it.
Yeah, and it's paid off for a lot of people, a lot of families. We've been able to add value.
Yeah.
The surviving sibling, or beg your pardon, spouse, never knew the
That they had
wife or
life
the husband.
behind.
Yeah,
Wow.
and and the difference in dealing with people like us is when things happen, we're in the same community. We say, look, we need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
This is in place. So this is how wealth is passed
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
That cover you did at 20, 30 pounds when you were in your
Mm.
20s, if you try doing it at the age of 50, you won't
Yeah. You
be,
can never get
the
access.
cover, the premium would be, no, the premium would be 150
Yes.
pounds,
Yeah. Exactly.
So, so value has been passed not just by buying property, the
Mm.
advisory, oh,
Mm.
don't buy here. We don't think this is
Yeah.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's always a burden
Mm.
that you carry to ensure that people get on to the right side of the ladder,
Yeah.
because property is a ladder game. If
Yeah.
you're climbing the wrong ladder, you might end up in the
Just
wrong
end up.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where we are is definitely different from where we're coming from.
Mm.
A lot of black youths are earning a lot more money.
Yeah.
We are talking
Back in
now
the
of
day. Yeah.
second, third generation. And what that means is your typical 25, 26-year-old is living at home,
Yeah.
not because he can't afford to live out, but the house is big,
Yes.
you know.
They're comfortable.
So some of them are,
Yeah.
yeah, some of them are pushing the barrier. They are owning 3, 4 properties and still staying at home.
Mm.
Yeah. Parents are comfortable.
Yeah.
Their first salary they are earning 40,000, 50,000, 60,000.
Yeah.
It took their parents 15, 16 years to get to
Get
that
that.
point. So some start working and their first salary is 90, 100,000. So it's a different ballgame. The opportunities are there, but you have to use it. You
Mm.
have to use it. We have to look at building wealth, and we are in a wonderful city that provides that opportunity.
That opportunity. No, and it's true. And we have to value that because it's not every city that gives you that opportunity. And as we kind of come towards the end, I wanted to talk a bit more about you, the man, of course, because we've talked about your business and all of that. And congratulations, about being represented in the top 100 power list. here of Black, is it entrepreneurs just, or is it just generally Black businesses?
It is the Black Powerlist.
Okay.
It encompasses all fields, which include sports,
Mhm.
entertainment, arts, business,
Fantastic.
so, medical,
Yeah.
so,
So tell us about
thank
that.
you. Thanks
How
for
did
the.
that, yeah, how did that come about? Because that's always like, how do you get that call? Like, what are you doing? And they just called you. How does it work?
I think again it goes back
Mm-hmm.
to what I said earlier: luck,
Mm-hmm.
God, and chance. Because a lot of people are doing great stuff, but they don't get noticed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, my social media presence is not that large. But I probably have value in my circle, and I was noticed. I got an email requesting for my bio that has been shortlisted, but there's an embargo. It's just a shortlist. Um, you're not supposed to discuss it. Then
Mm-hmm.
later on, they asked for some pictures. So I knew I was in, and with the level of people on that list,
Mm-hmm.
it is humbling, and
Mm-hmm.
I hope this would inspire a lot of people. But I didn't start the career. I didn't get into the industry thinking of Powerlist.
No,
There was no
powerless,
Powerlist
exactly.
then anyway.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I kept doing my own thing as best and I was learning. Learning. You go to meetings, you learn how some people speak, the mannerism, how
Mm-hmm.
they present themselves. How you present yourself, and we always try to do our best and
Yeah.
improve on it.
Yeah.
And in August, with a few friends, we looked at, oh, what can we do. I didn't just start giving back
Mm-hmm.
because my firm has been sponsoring Central St. Martin's University of Arts London undergraduate auction program for we sponsored it for 6 years, raised over
Okay.
£250,000 for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always looking for ways of adding value.
Adding
So the
values.
next step
Amazing.
now is
Social impact. Mm-hmm.
is ACE,
Mm-hmm.
Action for Change and Empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to bring together Nigerians in diaspora and friends of Nigeria in diaspora to come together as a community and try to do something without putting too much burden on individuals. So basically what we're trying to do is commit ourselves to support local charities in Nigeria to do great things, maybe even set up a Nigerian international school here, set up a Nigerian center, just like you rightly pointed out, all spheres, medical, education, housing, retail, in the city, Nigerians are there, but we don't
Yeah.
do things as a community. We want to change that mindset. We want to come together to build something to impact. When I say impact, real impact, not just a doddle. We want to do things that, man and God will say, yes, this group of people
Yes.
have done good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well done. Well done. And all the best with the initiative, because of course that's the core in everything that we're doing, is that we want to not just be making money. We were talking about it, gone are the days in the 80s, 90s when it was all a very capitalistic driven, business was all about capitalism and max. And of course, it's about making money, but it's also about being socially responsible and, having a social impact with those that are around you, especially if you've been blessed, then you want to definitely give back. And so it's really great that you have this initiative that you're working on as well. And we definitely support that. And then you, in terms of how do you handle family life with your business, because of course we all went through the lockdown where we were stuck with the kids and we were stuck with having to also run the business. And you are in this industry that was definitely impacted during that period, right? So how were you able to cope with, dealing with, obviously the difficulties that would have come as a result of the challenges with the lockdown, versus you managing also your family and family life, that kind of thing. So just interested to know how you got through that period.
Well, you know, you are strong in property as well. And what you agree with me is that being a service provider, we are expected to deal with crisis on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You know, you wake up in the morning and you don't know what is waiting for you. You never know.
You
It
never
could
know.
be a roof leak, it could be a property being used for weed,
With
cannabis
harvesting.
plantation, you know. So our life, you know, I've built up the right temperature to deal with situations. And most importantly, I have a very strong team.
Mm.
I have a strong team. If you try to do everything on your own, you know, you will be gone soon. So I have a strong team. Before the madness, we were about just under 40. So, and we have longevity in the team as well. We have people that have been 20 years,
Mm.
you know. So averagely, the team, I would say 8 to 10 years. So we, you know, the team has helped, let's put it that way. It was really frustrating the first few months. So I got into fitness modes, you
Yes.
know. I got into with a group on Zoom. So I've lost about 10 kilos. I
Wow.
feel
Yeah.
fitter, you know, I feel fitter. I read more,
Mm.
but you have to balance. Family is so important, especially when the kids were studying from home, you
Yeah.
know. My wife had a stroke last year, so I have to deal with that, and three kids as well.
Yeah.
So, but you know, family is family.
Mm.
Um, but your clients expect magic.
Exactly.
You know, they expect magic not once in a blue moon. They expect the magic every time.
Yes.
The tenant can't lose his or her job. The
Mm.
tenant must pay. You know,
Yeah.
properties must not be empty. You
Yeah.
know, so and when you're dealing with, you know, a substantial number, especially
Yeah.
for a business that was grown on a personal tailored service model,
Mm. Yes.
everybody wants to speak to you.
Yeah.
You know, So, but we've been able to manage it, and
Mm.
the most important thing in all this is once you enjoy what you're doing,
Mm.
right? Uh, and in this industry, in this city, what we don't know is a phone call away. That is the difference,
Yeah.
you know, because when you're struggling, that means it's not your patch. You
Mm.
won't struggle. You know, we're having this
Yeah.
interview now, totally adlib. Honestly,
Yeah.
I open the questions now. I just open
No.
it now. So, because, you know, so if it's your strength, you won't struggle. It becomes
Yeah.
a
You don't.
problem when you're out of debt, you
Yeah.
know. Throw me to South Africa, Paris, Dubai, New York,
Then.
I will be lost.
Yes.
I'll be totally lost, you know.
But
But
in
if it's
London,
London,
no chance.
in London, no chance, you know. I used to tell people then when we're going around town, you know, when we used to do all the viewings, you know,
Yeah.
driving and all that, and they say, "Oh, why you know all these back roads and all that?" I said, "Look, two people. Then there was no Uber. It was black cabs, estate agent, because
Exactly.
you need local knowledge,
You
you
do.
know. So, and that's why the company is London Property Acquisition. We predominantly do London. You know, I don't know Leeds. I don't know
Yeah.
much of Manchester. You
Yeah.
know, it is London. It's
London.
local specific.
Yeah. Well done.
So about the man,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
just your regular, you know. The other thing is I love football. I love
okay.
football. I intertwine football with my business. I must have
Okay.
taken over 1,000 people to watch their first game of football.
Wow.
So, football, because football is part. I don't think people come to London because their houses are the most beautiful properties.
know that.
That's there are lovely houses in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
In Monaco. South of Spain and all that. But London is a combination of lifestyle, the English language, so
it's
many
fun.
things.
Yeah,
make people come here. And I think and one of those things is football. London always has at least 6 clubs in the Premiership every season. So if one drops, another one comes up. So it's part. Even I've taken people that don't know anything about football, and when they get there, oh, it's actually not bad. This is actually interesting.
It's not as terrible as I thought it was. Yeah. Because I don't.
So it's like going to a cinema. It's entertainment. So I support Chelsea passionately, but I still have time for all the London clubs, and we have facilities to visit those stadiums whenever there is a game. We try to get the best out of London.
Yeah. And so as we wrap up, thank you. And as we wrap up, I think I wanted to know one last. I think I have 2 questions. You know how it is where you get somebody you've always wanted to talk to about things, so it's difficult to finish asking the questions and be here for the next 2 hours. But anyway, finally, I wanted to know if you had 2 things actually. One about you. What is the biggest thing about you as a person that has helped you in this industry? That's one. And then the last one is if you have any regrets about things that you could have done differently when you were coming up. So the first one is something about you that's a strong, attribute that has helped you to succeed in this industry.
I was prepared. I was prepared. I think, and I'm not using the word loosely, I was prepared by the people I understudied.
Yeah. So you were well and mentored in a way.
I was well prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was prepared. And we're all different. And what I advise people is, I'm going to speak about myself, and it might not work for the next man. But what you should always try to do is be best at your strong points and improve on your shortcomings. I'm usually underestimated by a lot of people because I take a lot in and it works for me. So I was prepared. I was prepared by my dad. I was prepared by my mentors. I was prepared by my role models. The mentors know me. The role models probably never met me, but I was prepared and I sponged the opportunities that came my way. Preparation is very, very important. Preparation is not just about reading. It's not just about exam. It's getting prepared to the point that when I meet this person, what conversation would I be having with that person? And that person would think that conversation was spontaneous, but in some cases, I've spent 5 years preparing for that meeting. So while some people will meet the person and what they're interested in is a selfie photo, I would ask a question that would be beneficial. Let's put it that way. Would have value, and even in my personality, the way I dress, it's part of the preparation. You don't go into a room dressed the way I dress and you won't notice that someone's coming. And everything matters, everything matters.
Image
but not in a condescending way, in a subtle mansion. Silence can be very loud. And I think preparation is very, very important. Then I'll go back to log God's chance.
Yeah, well done. And then the other part of the question, which is if there's anything that you would do differently.
Honestly, not a lot.
Wow. Well
Not a
done.
lot. Not
Yeah.
a lot. Not a lot. Not a lot. I will be sounding ungrateful
Mm.
if I want to write the story,
Yeah.
because even the downers help me. You
Yeah.
know, the rough ones, the betrayals,
Mm.
the backstabbing. You
Mm.
know, that's their own role in the whole story.
Yeah. No
So
story. Yeah.
I won't change anything. You know, because if it goes the other way, it would have been really,
Never
really,
know.
really, really bad.
Yeah.
Even for the ACE, the Action for Change and Empowerment,
Mm.
I have no regret that we're just doing it now. You know, because
Mm.
if I had started this 10, 15 years ago, it would have the same bandwidth it's getting.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
now we have now we've proved something.
Mm.
People will listen to us, and then
And
we just
rally.
have to ensure. Yeah.
Mm.
So honestly, I wouldn't look. I have an 88-year-old father, an 80-plus mother. So what do I want to change? You know,
Exactly.
you know,
God
you
bless.
know. I've got three beautiful children. You know, I'm living in the best city in the world. You know, so
What's there
what
to
do I want
change,
to?
to be honest?
Not a lot.
Scratch that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I
I'm healthy.
yeah.
I'm healthy. You
Yeah.
know, and I'm hopeful. You know, so not a lot.
Not
Not
a
a lot.
lot.
I
Well
won't
done.
change a lot.
Yeah. And so finally, what is your advice to anyone who's listening to this just about, their wanting to move into this industry? In a way, I've asked a different version of this question, but it's kind of like your parting words I'm just asking for.
Well, I just hope that you get it right the
Mm.
first time,
Yeah.
but it's not always the case, you
Mm.
know, because um, failure in most cases is not ultimately a failure. Even if you do get it wrong, you will learn some lessons from it. If
Mm.
you're coming into the industry, you need to build trust. You
Mm.
need to build trust. There is absolutely nothing that you can learn. But
Mm.
if you what, they will never forget that. So I think most things you can acquire skills, you can do all that. But what you can't is that personality, that person being truthful to your word.
Trustworthy.
Would help you because you are dealing with people, and
And
the news
yes,
will go around.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
yeah. So I think every other thing there's a variable to it.
yeah. But
Your timekeeping might be bad. People will accommodate you. You
yes,
know, so they know that look, when for a 1 p.m. meeting, they will tell you it's 12 noon, and they
yeah,
know you're supposed
exactly.
to
They
get
can
there
deal with that. They
at
can.
1:30. They
Yeah,
can deal with that. But
yeah.
what they won't deal with is
It's
the
lack of trust.
trust.
Yeah, yeah. Indeed. Very sound words. Thank you so much, Yemi. And I just thank you for this season, this period that we've had, and this conversation that we've had, because there's so many sort of golden nuggets and things that you've dropped. And I really like the way that you wrapped up with trust, because that's fundamental in this business. It's almost like you lose trust with a client or or an investor or whoever it is, and that can really impact. It's almost like it impacts future income generating from that channel. You've almost blocked that channel. So yeah, very, very, very sound words. So thank you so much for coming on the show. And we look forward to hearing more and more of your successes and celebrating you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity. We'll catch up soon. Thank you.
Catch up soon.
Thank you.